Learn how to invest in Pokemon cards. It's 2026 and Pokemon cards are booming more than ever. This is the perfect opportunity for you to start some sort of side hustle. I'm going to talk through all the different ways you can invest in Pokemon cards, talk through why the craze is happening right now, and essentially, it doesn't matter whether you're new to the hobby. Like maybe you started a month ago, or maybe you started 6 months ago, or you've been here forever. This video will have something for everyone. It is, okay, maybe somewhat tailored towards new people in the hobby, but if you're experienced, there'll still be little bits of gold hopefully in this video for you. Hey, if you're new here, my name's Michael, Pokeoz. We talk all things Pokemon card investing on this channel. And if you've been hanging around for a while, I really appreciate your support. It means a lot. Let's jump into it. Pokemon card investing. The key word there is the N word, isn't it? Which is investing. The final word in that sentence, investing. And what is investing? What is investing in Pokemon cards? Well, for me, I guess this would be my definition for it. I know it sounds a very universal definition for investing, but it would be allocating money into Pokemon cards with the expectation of it generating some sort of income, profit, or appreciation over time. It's as simple as that. Allocating money into Pokemon cards with the expectation of generating some sort of income, profit, or appreciation over time. That's my definition of Pokemon card investing. Pretty simple. The big question though, why? Like, why has it taken off so much at the moment? Why is it? I think it's so multifactored, and this isn't a video about why it's taken off, but I think it's important to touch on this. I think there's lots of reasons. One, and the big one probably, is it's starting to get real global attention as a dedicated investment vehicle that will actually go up over time, not only consistently, but sometimes rapidly. And the fact of the matter is, humans love a couple of things, and they certainly love money, but when it comes to money, they love the gambling factor, but everyone likes this whole get rich quick idea. And I think some people are under the assumption that's one of the things that can happen with Pokemon cards. I don't think that. There are some plays you can make that will get you money quickly, but it's not always the case. So why has it taken off? I think that the first one, it's getting global attention as a very solid investment vehicle. There's a lot of articles, even in some big news websites, saying, Pokemon investing is one of the most solid and sound investments. It's been outperforming so many other places, but if you are expecting to get rich off it, there is a quote that I use, which is fast money equals slow problems. If you want to make money fast in this hobby, there's every chance you might burn some people along the way, maybe ruin your reputation in some cases. So fast money always equals slow problems, in my opinion. So anyway, that's one of the reasons. Second reason is there are a lot of influencers out there hyping this hobby at the moment. There are some very famous people loving cards. Loving buying nostalgic pieces of Pokemon history, whether it's sealed or singles, people are buying, or graded, people are buying them up. Like, there is some influence in this hobby. There has also been the rise of the Pokemon investor. There's a lot of us investors talking on YouTube, and people tune in. Look, we don't get massive audiences. I'm not here saying, I get hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people watching each video. That's not the case. But, there is a small niche that'll watch this. There's Reddit forums, there's Facebook groups. There's lots of, I guess, the rise of social media when it comes to Pokemon card investing. Look, there's countless other reasons. There's things like Pokemon Pocket. There was, back in 2016, there was, of course, Pokemon Go. So there's applications and games and everything that can aid to the increase in Pokemon card popularity. But that is why I think, countless reasons it's taken off. So let's talk through the important part, which is the types of investing, and more importantly, how you can actually make returns. So if we're allocating money into Pokemon cards with the expectation of generating some sort of income, profit, or appreciation over time, how do we do that? How do we go about doing that, and how do we make it work efficiently for us? That's what I'm about to touch on next. Before I do though, a couple of shout outs. One is the merch. If you want to buy yourself a Pokeoz merch, or some Pokeoz merch I should say, there'll be a shop down below every video. You can click on it. But the big one is today's video sponsor, of course, the Collector app. There'll be a link in the description to download it. Collector is so good to use. You can follow my journey down in the content creators section. You can put in your whole sealed and singles collection. You can see how they change over time. You can see market movers daily. You can do lots of things. You can even assess whether a trade is a good trade. You can put in what you're going to trade versus what you're going to get off someone else. It'll tell you whether it's a fair trade or not. The big one for me though is the data that you can pull off this app. So as an investor or a collector, being able to see how things are changing over time, how they sat, what sort of rate of return you're getting on products, what the set analytics for sets are, like what the biggest chase cards are, what the graded population of these cards are. All that data is in the collector app. So good to use. And as a pro user, you'll unlock even more data. Right, onto the types. The first one I wanted to talk about is just letting things appreciate over time. The first one I want to talk about is buying singles and letting them appreciate. Now, whether that is 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 5 years, 10 years, or just selling off when you've essentially achieved the gains that you wanted to achieve, it doesn't matter. If you let it appreciate over time and then sell it for more, and that's as simple as that. You can't get rental income, so to speak, off Pokemon cards if you're just buying something and waiting for it to appreciate over time. There is no dividends getting paid. There is no rental income getting paid. You are literally just waiting on capital appreciation. So buying the card at this price, so buying it at X and selling it at Y, and hoping that Y is worth more, minus fees and everything, fees and postage and taxes if you have to pay them. You're hoping that is more than what you paid for it. That is letting something appreciate over time. And there's been countless examples recently, particularly the last 12 months, of so many singles that have just absolutely shot up in price. Moreover than that, there's even other things you can do with buying singles and letting them appreciate over time. And that little saying I said before, fast money equals slow problems, there's been people that have been trying to accelerate this process by doing things like coordinated buyouts on certain singles, which every time one hits the market, or if there's 100 on the market, buying all of them. Every time one hits the market, buying it. And what they do is they remove the floor of that price point. So let's say the price point for a particular single is $20 US, and you buy all 100 of them because you've got plenty of money and you want to pump the price of that card up to $30 US. Then every time one gets listed at 30, you're buying it. And therefore the floor keeps rising. So that's one way, buying singles, whether it's Wizards of the Coast, whether it's mid-era, whether it's modern, and hoping they go up in price and selling them for more than what you paid for it. Now, what I like to do, because this is the easiest for me, is buying sealed. And these two things, buying singles and buying sealed, and just letting them sit in your collection or part of your collection and letting them appreciate over time and then selling them when you want to sell them, that's the easy way. If you've got a 9 to 5, if you're busy, if you've got a family, kids, so many other things, other hobbies, other side hustles, this is the easy one. This is the one where you can just buy it, sit on it, and hope it goes up in value. And there's no easier way to do that, in my opinion, than sealed. I think sealed is a lot cleaner, so to speak, than singles. Singles can rapidly accelerate in price, probably even faster than what sealed can in a lot of cases, but they're quite volatile. If we see reprints, of course, it'll drop sealed prices to a degree, but it'll also flood the market with more singles and therefore reduce the price of the singles. And singles can be overpriced or overinflated and come back down. Singles can quite often go like this. Whereas the general trend of sealed product, they're a deflationary asset. Over time, there'll be less and less on the market. And particularly, of course, once they go out of rotation, if you don't know what rotation is, that's competitive play. So when a set comes out, it's generally in competitive play for about 2 to 3 years. After that, it'll be cycled out and there'll be a new block of competitive cards that can be used. Now, once a set's out of competitive play, the chances of it ever getting reprinted is pretty much next to none. It has happened on a few odd occasions. One of the ones which was mixed up with COVID, which made things hard to say, yep, definitely reprinted out of standard rotation. But that's what people mean when they talk about rotation. So anyway, long story short, over time, particularly after rotation, the chances of sealed ever getting printed again means that as every single box starts getting opened, the less and less box continue to exist out in the wild. And as less and less exist, their price generally goes up. And what happens eventually, even when a set first comes out, like if we talk about sealed life cycle and its appreciation over time, generally speaking, although we're in a bit of a different bull market at the moment, those products go to big box retailers, online stores, brick and mortars, etc., etc. They sit there and the pricing is controlled by that. I suppose, generally speaking, recommended retail price that stores will charge for boxes. Over time, which typically might have taken 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, they all get either bought up by people that want to open them, people that want to play the game, people that want to rip and ship, collectors that just want to collect them, or investors that want to buy those boxes in the hope they go up in the future. But eventually, all that product moves from the hands of big box retailers and online stores and brick and mortars to the general public. And when the general public have it, investors, collectors, rip and shippers, that's when it takes its first initial jump, because it's now in the free market of those that want to control it, and that is people like you and I. After that, that's when stock slowly starts to thin out over time. And as it starts to thin out, that's when we start seeing the next jump in price. So quite often sealed will do this, like it'll start along a certain price point, generally retail price, which I know we're in a different market at the moment. Then all of a sudden, after maybe 12 months or 18 months, it'll take a big price hike, a big spike, and then it might sit for a little bit longer, then another big price hike, and then it just seems to just drift slowly up as it gets rarer and rarer and older. So they're the two types of, I suppose, easy Pokemon card investing, just letting things appreciate over time, singles and sealed. The next one is buying singles to grade. A lot of people do this. You buy up mint copies. If it happens to grade a 9, you might break even. If it happens to grade an 8, you might lose a little bit. If it grades a 7, of course, you're going to lose even more. But if it grades a 10, you might, in some cases, triple, double, quadruple, 10x your money, depending on the card. There are plenty of cases where that happens. So, look, I personally don't have the time to do that. I think it sounds fun. Searching out for mint copies and buying mint copies and then sending them off to get graded. Sounds like heaps of fun. I just don't have the time for it. I don't have the time to set up my own little business and resell that. But you might find that as one of the funnest side hustles. You might find that as the greatest or the easiest way for you to make money out of the Pokemon investing space and Pokemon investing hobby. The next one is buying collections to resell. And I guess this goes a little bit hand in hand with another one, which is vending at Pokemon card shows. Now, we recently did one in my hometown. It was heaps of fun. It was set up by a guy at work, so hats off to him. A lot of us bought some cards along and sold them, etc. But what vendors will do, or even online people, this is the talking about buying collections to resell, is they'll buy things at a percentage of market. So if market price for a card obviously is $500 and they want to pay 80% of market, well, they're going to pay $400 for that card as a trade-in, so to speak, or a buy-in price. It makes it easier for the seller because if they don't have kudos to sell it online, maybe they don't have accounts, maybe their eBay score is really low and they'll struggle to get the price they want. Maybe they don't want to use another service to sell those cards. So selling it to a vendor or anyone at 80% of market might just be an easy way for them to sell that card, cash the money in and buy something else. So that's another way you can make money. Obviously you're putting money into cards with the expectation of generating income or profit. And that's what you're doing with vending or buying collections to resell. There's lots of people online that will just put a post up saying, hey, I'm willing to pay this market price for this product. If you want to offload it easy, don't worry about, eBay fees or other selling fees. Just I'll pay you via PayPal or whatever other income source you want to do for that. Then that's another way. And I guess the final way, and this is the big rise, and this is one of the reasons, not one of the reasons, well, it is one of the reasons, and whether it's the biggest, smallest, or somewhere in between, this isn't a video about that, but the rise of rip and shippers, this is one of the reasons it's so hard to get stock, because this has really grown. It's always been around, but it's in particular grown, sites like Whatnot, even YouTube Lives and other live streaming services where literally people are buying hundreds or thousands of packs to open in an evening, and people are buying in to open those packs, and whatever's pulled, those hits get sent out to them. And there can be good profit in that. I mean, hypothetically, and this is just a hypothetical, I mean, if you open 500 packs in a night and you're making $2.50 profit per pack, I mean, you're making over $1,000 profit per pack. Look, there's some time and effort into that though, isn't there? There's time and effort building an audience. There's time and effort posting the cards out. It's a lot of time and effort. So again, for someone that is time poor like myself, there are certainly easy ways for you to get in. So if it's 2026 and you're thinking of starting up a side hustle when it comes to Pokemon card investing, there is almost an avenue for anyone. My biggest advice though is that little saying I said before that fast money can equal slow problems. Build your brand up, build your community up, do the right thing by people. and have fun with it. Pokemon cards are the fun investment. If you've invested in shares, you've bought yourself a property, you've bought yourself an investment property, and you're just ready to sink your teeth into something fun, or even if you have none of that, even if you're just renting, like probably 70% of the world's population at the moment, because it's so damn hard to get into the rental, into the property market. Even if you're just renting and you have a spare $100 a week or $200 a month, and you just want to buy yourself a booster box or a couple of 3-pack blisters just to have fun and be part of the hobby and see if they appreciate. It's open to anyone, this hobby. Any price point, you can have heaps of fun with it. So there you go. The craziness that is Pokemon card investing in 2026. I'm Michael. This is PokeOz. Thanks heaps for tuning in. I'll catch everyone next time.